right. Welcome, everyone. We're live. My name is Jill Harani. I'm the VP of Marketing at Metazoa. Welcome to the Reset Button, where we chat with change makers and status quo shakers in the Salesforce ecosystem about getting ahead, staying motivated, and moving society forward. This episode of the Reset Button features Karen Mangia, who is the Vice President of Customer and Market Insights at Salesforce. She is an internationally recognized thought leader and an author of 3 books, Working from Home, Making the New Normal Work for You, Listen Up, How to Tune into Customers and Turn Down the Noise, and Success with Less, which I just happen to have with me right here, and I highly recommend all 3. There's so much I could tell you about Karen, but instead of me saying it, I'm going to introduce Karen and have her tell us about herself. So, welcome, Karen.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here. I mean, it was getting a little bit lonely in my home office. So even this feels like being in the break room. It's lifeblood, isn't
Yes,
it?
it is. Absolutely. Yes. So welcome. Tell us a little bit more. I know I talked a bit about you, but tell us some more about yourself.
Well, I am also, in addition to what you talked about, a professionally trained chef. And something I've discovered is that every viewer of every show I've ever been on, every boss I've ever had, and every customer, they all eat. And my last name actually means to eat in Italian. So what I like to tell people is, I guess on one hand, I'm probably perpetually in search of my next best meal, but maybe it's really that I'm always hungry. And I think the topic that I'm hungry for more of, like probably everybody listening today, is success. That's kind of the common theme, across those books and what I'm passionate about, which is helping people be successful, whether that's with your career, whether that's being able to work and to live well, or whether that's being successful with your customers, or some combination of all 3.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So, I usually do an interview style session, but today I thought it would be great to just have you take the topic, how to build your brand virtually, as a workshop. So I'm actually going to turn it over to you, Karen, and have you take us through your workshop.
Well, thanks so much, Jill. And it's great to be with all of you today, wherever you are viewing or consuming this content. And just to give you a little bit about my story, something that I have discovered during this pandemic, and perhaps you have too, is that past skills and experiences have present value. And that could be a network of people that you're suddenly drawing on to get new ideas, or customers you're calling on. And it can also be some skills that might not have been as relevant to you as they are right now. And as I think back over the course of my career, the first time that I did an interview about working from home, believe it or not, was 2002. At that point, I was in my sales career, and I was espousing the benefits of autonomy and choice, and how I could be so much more productive and really show up at my best when I had the opportunity to choose where I needed to be doing my best work. So I often like to say that I was working from home well before it was coerced or cool. Well, along the way, what I've discovered is, a little at a time, I was fine-tuning some skills that, unbeknownst to me, would become incredibly relevant right now. We all entered this work from home experiment simultaneously, and I don't know about you, but with very little training or preparation about how to do it well. And what I've come to discover during this period of time is, of course, first and foremost, we've all been interested in keeping ourselves and our families safe. That's critically important. What we're also concerned about is continuing the career progress and trajectory that we've been invested in. And one of the challenges that tends to come along with that is understanding how to articulate what makes you valuable in a way that resonates right now. How do you continue to build not only your career trajectory, but your career possibilities in a time when we can't be together as easily in person? Now, for some of you, you might be working physically apart from that boss that you report to or the team that you're a part of for the first time. And others of you may have a little bit more experience. Well, something I discovered along the way that's incredibly helpful and relevant to our time together today is how important it is for each one of us to consider something like, what does success mean to you? And think specifically about career success. Something that's happened for all of us is there's been a shift, and I don't know if you can feel it too. What we expect from work has shifted. You know, in the past, we might have all been willing to endure very lengthy commutes, or if you're like me, spend a couple 100,000 miles a year flying through the air. And what has happened in this new work from home experiment is we're discovering that there are some new ways that we might be able to differentiate ourselves. And we have some new expectations or a new definition of what success means now in light of everything that has shifted. Do you feel that too?
Yeah.
Well, something that really, I bet you're feeling it, right? I mean, I'm guessing an event like this, Jill, probably would have happened in person in the past, right? Or you would have had some kind of series where people could be together and maybe there was a happy hour before, right?
Yep.
Yes. Well, so what I start to think about is, you know, the time when I really learned so much and reset my definition of success. I'll never forget the time when some mysterious things started showing up for me that were challenging my ability to stay healthy and to stay safe. And unbeknownst to me, those symptoms, those experiences, those shifts started what became a 3.5-year process of major medical, where I was misdiagnosed multiple times and really struggled to balance or feel some success in my work and in my life because I was physically unwell. And I was living in a state, you know, of not only being ill, but candidly really feeling out of hope. And some of you might be feeling that a little bit right now, today. You might have felt that over the past year. And it might surprise you to look at me now, but along the way of that major medical journey, I gained about 55 pounds. And to clarify, I did not have a baby. My hair fell out. My skin turned gray and my eyes actually changed color. One day I looked in the mirror and I literally did not recognize the person who was looking back at me. So whether the major medical that's disrupting your life and your career right now is coming in the form of COVID or some other kind, I really don't think there's any great medical disruptions that happen. Perhaps you might agree. Well, for me, the gift of that moment, and I was grateful to find a physician who believed in me and got deeply curious and set me forward on a 5-year healing journey. But what was most important in the shift during that period of time, besides restoring my physical health and well-being, was really developing a healthier relationship with work and with success. See, I often thought, and you might be this way too, you've probably been living it if you're like the statistics we're all reading right now, that more is better. I mean, think about what's happening right now when you're in your home office. I mean, everyone's reporting they're burnt out. And why is that? Because we have led ourselves to believe that managing our brands virtually is a function of being always on and always responsive 24/7 by 365, if you're some folks. And the reality is this: if a high performing athlete, your favorite professional athlete, showed up on this call right now, and I asked him or her, what's the secret to your success? And they said, the secret is I am always exercising or performing my sport all day, every day. I am in constant motion. You would look at them and think they were crazy. And yet here we are in corporate America. That's how we live, or in your company. We live as if more is the secret to success. And what I discovered, and what I share in the book, Success with Less, and what we're going to talk about today, is the secret to your success is less. Less activity, less telling, fewer words on your resume, fewer words in your career story, believe it or not, and more thoughtfully curating where you're spending your best time, your best energy, and your best effort. So I want to ask you a question in the context of this workshop. What's your definition of career success right now? When was the last time you took a pause to think about, first of all, what success means to you? And then what's your next goal? Where are you trying to head next? Because here's the secret of how to manage your career virtually. Success begins with your story. Now, I think about these moments when we try to reinforce or relay our career story, and they tend to show up at some key moments. Interviewing for a new role, being considered for or interviewing for a promotion, meeting a new boss or a new mentor, or perhaps in the context of something like this where we might ask you to share a few aspects of who you are or what makes you unique. And what I've discovered along the way is when you change your story, you change your results. And here's how this all threads together. There's a worksheet that I developed. It's called the Career Companion. And that's what we're going to follow along with today. And Jill will share the link with all of you so that you can follow along. What's great about the Career Companion is it's a free PDF. I mean, you can interact with it. You don't have to give me your email address to do it. But the reason that I developed this Career Companion is to help you and people like you articulate in as few words as possible what makes you awesome, some evidence to support it, and to frame up in the fewest number of words possible what your next goal is and how the person that you're delivering your career story to or whose perception of your brand that you're trying to influence can do to help you along the way in that journey. Does that sound like something that would be useful to work on together?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I used to think that being able to manage your brand virtually was a result of saying a lot and doing a lot. And what I've realized is that old saying is true. The ultimate elegance is simplicity. Or maybe you've heard it described as, I would have delivered a shorter message, but I didn't have the time. Curating our story, our brand, what we want people to know us for, down into a few high impact words is a thinking activity. And here's what it starts with. What does success mean to you? What's your next goal? Do you know how you want to show up before we ever start putting words in this form, much less trying to convey them to someone who's listening? So here's what's so powerful about this Career Companion. And I'll talk you through each one of these sections. And, if you're someone who feels proficient in delivering your story, I like to use this in the context and as a resource in conversations with people that I am mentoring, people that I'm managing that are trying to go to the next step in their career. And then also in conversations with all of our teams and the people around us as we're all learning some new skills about how to manage our brand virtually and manage the perception of our brand virtually, which is the piece that we'll address after we talk through the Career Companion. So are you ready? Are you ready to get started?
I am.
Fabulous. Let's do it. So the first section of that Career Companion is you in a few words. And here's what I mean by that. Anytime you're having a conversation with a boss, and this could even be a performance review, and you're wanting to reinforce your brand, the most powerful thing you can do is to consistently use and repeat the 3 to 5 words that you believe most uniquely describe and differentiate you. Now, along the way in my career, like you, a lot of times I've thought that the secret to managing my brand was kind of getting meetings with big influential people, right? That one executive sponsor we all hear about that's like a unicorn out there that if only you can connect with them, they will open doors of career opportunity to you, to parts unknown, to fulfill your wildest dreams, even if you don't know what those dreams are yet. And what I discovered is even when you land the meeting with the big influential person, you need to have a compelling story. Otherwise, that conversation isn't a gateway to anything other than, well, that's nice. It was nice to meet you. Have you ever had a meeting like that? Our best effort goes into refining our story up front. So when I think about 3 to 5 words, I always share a couple of guidelines. First, they need to be authentic, because when you're delivering this statement about your strengths and what makes you unique, you need to be able to use words that you believe to be true about yourself, that you would authentically say and use in a conversation. So this isn't like borrowing a sentence or a phrase that you read somewhere that doesn't really describe you or that was used to help somebody else get results. This is about you. The next thing I say is these words should not sound like they came from a major consulting firm or some kind of a comic strip that makes fun of office life. These need to be words that personalize you, differentiate you, and make you memorable. And so one of the tests that I use on these 3 to 5 words is, when you say them, when you write these 3 to 5 words down, do they describe every single person working in your team who's having the same conversation with your boss about a promotion or a performance rating? If so, revisit your 3 to 5 words. We want you to be memorable. We want your brand to be something that people not only hear, but experience to be true and true of you, something that you can confidently and comfortably reinforce. And then the other aspect of selecting the 3 to 5 words are, we're setting you up to prepare some examples to support the 3 to 5 words that you've chosen. So for example, if I use the word to describe myself, technical, and then somebody asks me, well, give me an example of a product you've designed or built, or something you like to tinker with, your favorite tech gadget, and I didn't have an answer, it would immediately make that word suspect in the mind of the listener. So what we want to do are select 3 to 5 words that set you up to reinforce what makes you awesome with a couple of examples, which is what we'll talk about next. Now, when I think about this, you should be able to easily work the 3 to 5 words that uniquely describe you into a sentence, something like this. My strength is making geniuses human. Now, when I say that to you, how many of you are prompted to have me tell you more? And how many people have you ever said or heard use that phrase? Not very many, right? Well, something I've discovered about these 3 to 5 words is we want to use lots of words, right? Because we think if we use a lot of words, we'll sound very important and very influential. And the reality is people remember brands, whether those are brands of products or brands of people, that are short and simple. Now, if you're struggling to come up with 3 to 5 words that uniquely describe you, what you'll find on my interactive worksheet are a couple of resources to help. First, StrengthsFinder. If you've never taken the StrengthsFinder assessment, something I love about it is that the StrengthsFinder assessment, by function of what it does, returns several words that uniquely describe your strengths. And you don't have to use those exact words if you don't feel comfortable with them. But what's beautiful is each one of those words comes with a paragraph of description. So select a synonym that helps you feel comfortable. And if you're struggling with the confidence in articulating your strengths, which happens to lots of us, that's a very normal phenomenon. It can feel uncomfortable to describe your strengths. It could feel like bragging to some people. What helps is when you take something like a StrengthsFinder assessment, they're pulling from hundreds of thousands of data points. So now it's not you bragging about yourself, it's the facts. It's statistically the facts of how a scientific assessment describes your strengths. Sometimes that can help with the mindset shift to deliver that story with confidence. Another example is there's a free 360 assessment in there. And what I like about this is it's a very quick and easy survey that you can send to your bosses, your peers, your customers, your friends and family. And within that 360 assessment is a question that asks the respondent to use 3 to 5 words that uniquely describe you. And what I found is when I see a word used over and over that surfaces from my peers, as well as my customers, as well as people in my personal life, what I know is that is an authentic, genuine aspect of my brand, of how I show up in every part of my life. The other area or tip that can help you zero in on those words or what makes you differentiated and unique are things that you do, activities you take, results you deliver that feel effortless to you, that often get feedback or comment or notice from others. So often when we're functioning in our area of strength, we feel like, well, of course everybody knows how to do this. This is so easy. Well, it's probably not easy for everyone. It's easy for you because that's your strength. So think about some of those times. Think about some of those examples. And the key here is to practice your 3 to 5 words until you feel comfortable and confident delivering them, and to adjust those words if you're not yet feeling comfortable and confident delivering them. So once you have your 3 to 5 words in place and you practice, and I like to actually practice them out loud with people in my network who I trust. That can be a mentor, that could be a boss if you're fortunate, or a teammate, and give the others who are listening, who know you, a chance to make some observations about other words they would add, something they might notice that you've missed, or how you appear when you deliver that. Do you feel and come across as calm and confident, or are you a little bit chaotic and maybe shrinking back? Ask for some feedback and generously do that for someone else as well. The second part of building your brand virtually, besides being able to articulate those 3 to 5 words that uniquely describe you, is to reinforce them with a couple of examples. Now, I think about some of the best examples as the ones where you can illustrate and describe the before and after state, along with some kind of a quantifiable metric that helps people count or quantify how your strength was put to use to deliver an outcome or a set of outcomes. Now, the key when you're selecting these examples is not only to select examples that you feel best reflect your strengths. Ideally, you want to select examples that show how the outcomes and results that you deliver using your strengths are the kinds of outcomes and results that you can deliver for the person that you're trying to impress with your brand, or get to see you as a fit to either operate at the next level or for that job. So let me give you an example. I talked about making geniuses human as an example of a differentiated strengths statement. And an example I would provide is there is a 20-time book published author, a many times New York Times bestseller, and he approached our company, Salesforce, and said, hey, I've got a book coming out. I've never worked with Salesforce before. I'd love to make you a part of my launch plan. Is there something that you could do to help? And I was familiar with the person's work, and I thought, you know what? I see a number of resources, a number of ways that this could come to life. This could maybe be a trailhead trail. This could be an appearance on one of our series that we offer to our customers. This could be a session, a fireside chat that we offer under our strategic partnership umbrella with a couple of key organizations. And so my example that I often give is, before, what would have happened is this luminary thought leader would had to have go from team to team with a very disconnected message and no unified experience. And what I did was act as the personal concierge to make that message and that thought leader relevant to our company and to our ecosystem. And I put together a playbook that we've repeated with other luminary thought leaders that I call one luminary, many illuminations. And as a result of that, we've got 9 thought leaders at this point who are actively engaged in running this playbook with us, where we get to take someone fantastic and expose them to our entire ecosystem. So think about that. The before state was chaos. The after state, me using my strengths, was connection. You can count how many fancy luminaries are engaged. I won't name them for you here because it's irrelevant to our conversation. And it also has a little bit of a tagline, right? One luminary, many illuminations. You don't have to have the tagline, but the key is the before and after state and your quantifiable metric. That's the next section in that fill in the blank worksheet, which is you and a few examples. Now let's move on to the aspirational part of the story. Most of the time that we're focused on how to build our brand virtually, it's because there's something we want, right? Something that we believe will unlock new opportunities for us, get us to that promotion, a new job opportunity, whatever that might be. And so in this, I don't know if any of you have ever been the person that the interviewer asks you the question, where do you see yourself 3 to 5 years from now? And you don't have a great answer. And I often say on the receiving end, when I ask people, okay, well, so you want to work at Salesforce or you want me to help you, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? I'm often on the receiving end of something I know I've done myself, which is in the absence of thinking about 3 to 5 well-curated words, the answer sounds something like these. Well, I'd really like to be in a team or in a role where I can continue to learn and I can really be a great team player and I can, continue to grow and have opportunities and. Well, see, the challenge is the person that you're talking to doesn't know how to help you when you can't articulate what you want and specifically what you want from that person. So what you'll see is the next section in that fill in the blank worksheet is 3 to 5 words that summarize what you're seeking next. Now, those words could be as simple as a promotion to people manager, or a rotational job assignment, or an opportunity to interview with the hiring manager for this position. It could also be an investment in training. We're certainly all trying to reskill right now, and maybe you need some budget. That's a great example of an ask as well, where you're going to need to be able to articulate your strengths and how you're going to deliver outcomes and results that are relevant with that budget. But here's how this shows up. We want to be able to let that listener know where you're headed next. What's that next goal so that they can get invested with you and open doors? So in my case of making geniuses human and that example of the one luminary, many illuminations playbook, my 3 to 5 words about what I'm seeking next are, I want to influence influencers. And here's what I mean by that. When we have the opportunity to work with these incredibly smart people, the outcome of that ideally would be that we amplify and co-create some new and relevant resources. And we have an opportunity to take those to new places and get new results. So along the way, I'm typically seeking some introductions, some opportunities, but ultimately it's how do we create influence out in the market that compels customers and prospects to want to get engaged with Salesforce and build a more compelling vision of the future together. When you think about your 3 to 5 words, align them to where you're going next. And here's why it's so important, because you'll see the last section of that career companion is your ask. And I find that even if we land the big meeting and we prepare the big story and we're in the process of reshaping our brand, what ends up happening? We fall just short of making the ask, either because we don't want to bother the person or because we don't feel confident or because we don't know what to ask. Well, if you want that person listening to open doors for you, whether that's for the top performance review or the promotion or the new opportunity, you need to be able to articulate an ask of what you're hoping that person can do to you. In my case, it's asking some folks who are very well connected to introduce me to people in their network who might be candidates for this program, right? So I'm asking for access. You might be asking for approval. You might be asking for alignment. I'm seeking to get promoted to the next level, and you're looking at your boss saying, are we aligned that I'm ready for this? How could we get into alignment about where I'm headed next? The key to all of this is when you put it together, it becomes a couple of sentences that are crisp, clear, and articulate. And that 3 to 5 word brand statement is something that you can repeat and reinforce over and over and over. And I'll give you an example. When I have my career conversations with my boss, I orient our discussion around my 3 to 5 word strengths and examples to reinforce that message to my boss, who, by the way, even if we weren't in a pandemic time, we live in different cities. I rarely see him in person. Success begins with your story. And my question to you is, how well prepared are you to tell your story? Because whether you're delivering that story in person or virtually, you need to have a great story that you can deliver confidently that comes with a crisp, clear, articulate ask at the end. Now let's add on a couple of nuances about delivering this in a virtual world. And I'll let you in on a little secret I've discovered that is meeting with wonderful resonance. While you start thinking of some questions, because after my next section here, we'll move into an opportunity to answer some of your top of mind questions. Something that I've discovered about this virtual world, and you might have too, is because we're on so many of these longer meetings, right, that happen over video, sometimes it gets easy for even that influential person that we're listening to, that we're trying to build our brand with, to tune us out. And I don't know if you've ever noticed that sometimes when you're conveying something in an email, even if it's this exact same message, something about your brand, something about your strengths, something about an ask, sometimes that context gets lost, right? And you don't always get to know if your boss is watching that in the midst of, an e-learning crisis and, a plumbing crisis and after 4 bad meetings in a row. Most of us, when we're thinking about building our brand virtually, though, associate FaceTime as being critically important. And I think that's, for so many of us, what we miss about the office, right? It's a little bit easier in an in-person world to get some FaceTime with the people that you believe can be influential in your career. And here's the secret that I've discovered. Are you ready? The power of a 1 to 2 minute video to build your brand virtually. And here's what I mean by that. I believe that video messages are more easily personalized and offer richer context than just an email alone. Would you agree? So if what I'm trying to demonstrate, for example, is that I'm present in my role, or I'm still aspiring, to go to the next level and keep learning during this time, or that I've got a new idea or need some budget or need approval, a 1 to 2 minute video is a remarkable opportunity that resonates to get a little FaceTime with your boss or your customer or that influential person in your career without needing to schedule a meeting. And here's what else is great about this video technique. It's differentiated and memorable. Your boss can watch your video message asynchronously from a calm state, calm place, and you're more likely to get a yes. You can easily get FaceTime without consuming your boss or influential person's calendar time. And the most critical of all, a video message is an opportunity for you to show up at your polished and practiced best. Because you can record your video, you can watch your video, and then you can re-record it if somehow you didn't show up the way that you wish to be seen. And I'll give you an example of how I used this recently in kind of a brand building or brand shifting conversation with my own boss. My inflection point coming into this year is I wanted to shift my brand and shift my brand virtually from being seen for being awesome at execution to being seen more as awesome at creation. And we were coming up on the point of talking about, career and outlook and plans and goals for the year. And so in advance of that conversation, I recorded a 90-second video that I sent to my boss. And it was very simple. I just said, first of all, I hope I haven't disappointed you. This is not a TikTok video. This is actually a meeting minimizer. I'm sending you this quick video snippet to let you know how much I'm looking forward to our career conversation. And what I'm really working to do is to shift my brand from execution to creation and to scale this one luminary, many illuminations play we've been talking about. I look forward to diving deeper into that and making sure we're aligned, that is a valuable priority for this year, and then talk about how you can best support me in realizing results. Guess what? I got to record that video a couple times before I sent it. My boss knew exactly what we were going to talk about coming into that conversation and therefore knew how to prepare. And he also remarked, thanks so much for being a trailblazer in how we work. He's like, I love how you're communicating with me. This video idea is great. I wish more people would do it. And what I did was I started in that video a little steady drip of my brand, how I was trying to shift my brand, how he could help me shift my brand, and set him up for success by coming to our conversation with a list of ideas about how he could help, as opposed to perhaps having an empty brainstorm in the moment. So as you work on your story, I encourage you, try out this snippet for how to build your brand virtually. It's part of my secret sauce, which is giving you more face time without taking up more calendar time. With that, I'd love to take some questions. Jill, from you, from our audience.
I just have to say I love that idea. I never even thought of doing a video. And it's like how many times I've taken photos of myself and you put one photo out and people are like, oh, you're so photogenic. No, I took 100 before I found that one to put out there. So you can actually edit and redo and give your best in that one video. I love that.
Yes, and I've even done, this is so funny, just to reinforce an important point. I mean, I've done something as low tech, are you ready for this, as taking a blank index card or a blank piece of paper and writing with a Sharpie marker an important word that I'll hold up to the camera for just a brief moment, right? This doesn't have to take a whole bunch of time, because I don't know about you and I don't know about your listeners, but I think something that happens in this virtual world is part of the reason we convince ourselves we have to be always on and always available is kind of the work or career version of like fear of missing out. Like, if I don't instantaneously respond, right, to my boss or my customer, they, whoever they is in your world, will think I'm not working and that I'm not serious about my career. And what I've discovered is I don't need to always be on, but I do need to be consciously present. And that little curated video says, listen, I'm trying to think with you about how we could communicate effectively without that taking up a lot of time for both of us. So here's what I'm going to try. Could you give me some feedback about whether or not this is working for you? And I find that people are so refreshed by a new mode of communication. And as I've coached some people through this technique, if you're someone who struggles with being articulate or public speaking, or you're the person who freezes in the moment, this is a wonderful tool to help you show up at your absolute best, because you get to edit and revise yourself. There's no like moment of regret of, oh, I wish I would have said something different, or, oh, I wish I would have taken that pause, or why didn't I ask this person for help when I had the moment of opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking the message of, not of success with less, of not always being, answering that email or being available or whatever, is such a good message, because I think when you finally get to that point where you step away, some of your most brilliant ideas come to you because you're not constantly focused on the things that are coming at you. You have a moment of clarity where you can think. I often do it in the shower. I'll come up with an idea while I'm showering. It's like I'm not thinking of work, but something will come into my brain and I'll go, wow, this is a great idea. I'm going to present this idea. Just having those moments, I think, are super important to just do your best and be
Yes, and that's the success with less formula. Pause, ponder, prioritize. Because for all of us, it is impossible to see our way to a better solution without a moment of pause. It's exactly what you said. How do you create that I'm out for a run or in the shower moment of information synthesizing and new ideas showing up? And that reminds me, I talk about in working from home, because somebody's watching this like, I don't have time to do this. I don't think you understand how busy I am. As a matter of fact, I do. And here's what I would offer to you, which my 3 challenge questions to ask your calendar, ask your to-do list, and a bonus question. Does it have to be? Does it have to be me? Does it have to be me right now? And the bonus question, does it have to be a meeting? You know what? When I take a pause and look at some things on my calendar or on my to-do list that feel urgent, because I mean, if you're treating everything as important, then nothing truly is. But when I challenge like my calendar and my to-do list with those questions, I find out more often than not that not every single thing that's on my list has to be me and has to be me right now. And in fact, with this video technique that I just shared for building your brand virtually, each week on Friday, I look at my meetings for the coming week and I ask, does it have to be a meeting? And I block 15 minutes or 30 minutes the end of the day every Friday to replace meetings with video messages.
Oh, nice.
Yes. It's beautiful. You know, I don't know if you ever remember that feeling, maybe when you were, you know, it could have been a teenager, you were in college and you find $20 in your pair of jeans that you forgot about, right? It's amazing. That's how it feels when you take a meeting off someone's calendar. This is the career version of I just found $20 in my pocket. Your boss, your influential person will want to talk to you all day long. They'll be happy to have a meeting when they realize you're thoughtful about that meeting and that that meeting has a purpose and that you're finding some other ways to effectively communicate and build your brand virtually without always defaulting to the video meeting.
Yep, that's great. I love that analogy. That's awesome. Well, we're not getting any questions in. Are there ways that people can reach out to you and maybe ask you questions after this?
Please, I welcome your questions. And I publish new content regularly and tips that I learn from people as well that I find inspiring and immediately actionable on Twitter at Karen Mangia and on LinkedIn as well. So I welcome connecting with you there. All of the books are, of course, available on Amazon. And then, you know, you'll see me floating around Salesforce events from time to time.
Awesome. I know I'm excited for in-person events at Salesforce. It's coming soon.
It is coming. We must just keep believing. I mean, I think that's part of it, maintaining some hope, right?
Yes, absolutely. Well, Karen, this was brilliant. Thank you so much for being here. I thank everybody who came, and I just want to say to not miss our next episode, which is May 11th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, where we will talk with Rick Guyan on the topic, what the ecosystem has taught us about the new normal. I'm excited about that session. I think there's going to be some great stuff coming out of that, talking about some of the vaccine cloud and other great things Salesforce does. So I will see you next time on Metazoa Live Reset Button. Thanks, Karen, so much.
Thanks so much. Have a great day and be successful.
Bye.